everyone. Good to see you on this morning. Welcome to Morning Joe. We are a virtual learning platform for the whole World Wide Web on current topics and discussions. So today's topic, we are learning about coffee. And I'm very excited to dive into this topic and hear more about what you guys have experienced with coffee, if you like it, if you don't. How do you get your caffeine in the morning? Feel free to come into the description box down below. I'll give you guys some shout outs as you roll in this morning. Maybe you're tuning in right first thing in the morning, or maybe you're getting to us a little later once you've gotten your kickstart. Okay, let's see who has logged in. Okay, I am seeing one submission from Jada. Jada's drinking a latte with us this morning. Hey girl, hey Jada. And then I see Abby is also tuned in, holding a nice classic cup of joe. She sent in a picture, so I'll be sure to add that into the video here. Good morning, guys, and thanks for brewing with us today. Let's talk about our agenda as to what we are going to talk about today. Dun, 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 dun. What is coffee? How to brew coffee. Sorry, it's a little, I haven't had it yet, so I'm a little slow. Then we're going to talk about coffee internationally, and then talk about some of the nutrition content that is in coffee. Okay, let's get to it. Okay, so for all our international listeners out there, I wanted to give a quick introduction to what coffee is, and if it's something that you have heard of in a different language or maybe you've seen before. I wanted to share with you the different ways that we know it as in America, so that maybe you can make some connections to your home brew. So normally coffee is categorized into different ways of roasting: light, medium, and dark. The more the beans have been roasted, the less caffeine concentration there will be inside. So the light roast has the highest percent of caffeine concentration, and the dark roast have been really roasted for a long time and have gotten a lot of the more, it's lightly caffeinated. So you'll come across many different names in America as well as across the country or the planet for what coffee is titled. We all come together in many different cultures to celebrate coffee and to enjoy coffee. And here at Morning Joe, we call it Morning Joe, or we can also call it go-go juice, coffee, the love of my life, and the list goes on. If you ever find yourself in an American coffee shop, normally on the menu will be posted a long series of different names for different brewing and roasting strategies for coffee. So depending how it's brewed, you can have a latte or an espresso that have a high concentration of caffeine, or you can do typical morning brew, which is just drip coffee, and the water will pass through the beans, and that's something that can be easily made in the house, as well as out at a Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, where many Americans do go to for their daily coffee consumption. Or you can have other categories that fall in between, such as a cold brew, which is a special brewing of the coffee under cold conditions. So many people like to ice their coffee as well, foam their coffee, and the list goes on. So that is just a couple of examples of how you can find coffee in the States as well as in across the country, a lot of cultures are very particular in the way that they like their coffee, and particular in the time of day they like their coffee, but we'll get into that a little bit more. I don't know about you, but I am tired. Let's go brew some coffee. Hi everyone, welcome to my kitchen. I'll be showing you guys how I make my morning brew. To start, let me say that I will be doing drip coffee for this demonstration today. A lot of people choose to brew coffee in other ways every morning, including using K-cups or even instant coffee, but I will bring you along the process of making drip coffee today. Let me show you our machine. So you can buy these at any kitchen appliance store. I'm using Mr. Coffee, and first thing you need to do is wash your hands. Oof, it's the morning. I'm not going to show you how to wash your hands, but I know you all know how to, and I'm excited to hear about how well that process went for everyone. Whew. Okay, let's get into the brewing process. Get your cup. Fill with water. Depending how much you're making, I'm going to make 1 cup, so I'm going to fill it to the 2-cup line. Shut off the water. Whoa. And now, I'm going to open this lid right here. Fill it into this little hole. Glug, 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 glug. Okay, great. Water is checked. Now we're going to get our filter paper. I have one that's already opened, and this is where you're going to put the coffee beans. So you put it into this little hole right here. You can't really see because I'm videoing. Okay, lovely. Phew, we got that in. Now, next step is the beans, the most important part. So I'm using a medium roast today, and I'm using 100% Arabica whole beans. I heard that 80% of the world's beans are actually Arabica, so that's fun. And now, spoon. Oh gosh. Spoon me. And so I always refer to the back of, sorry for the filming, guys. 1. You could tell it's the morning. There's already a spoon in here. I don't know why. What I was trying to say before is that on the back of the can or bag of beans, it'll say what the ratio should be of water to beans. So I put in 2 cups of water, which is equivalent to 2 tablespoons, or basically 2 of these, of green. So now that that is all set up, I'm going to close and then press brew now. And just like that, it's not really instant coffee, but it's pretty dang close. Now we wait. Oh my Lanza, we made coffee. Woohoo! So that was only really like 5 minutes later, depending how much coffee you want to make. Morning Joe. Now that we have this beautiful, rich cup of Joe, we are going to cater it to our taste preferences. Now, everybody kind of is very individualistic about the way that they take their coffee. For example, people like to put milk in their coffee, or half and half, or full cream, and that will add a little bit more milkiness to the coffee. In addition, you can add sugar to your coffee to make it a little bit more sweet. Now, I am an original kind of girl, so I just drink my coffee plain and black, and I'm awake! The day has begun, and it's time to talk about coffee, because coffee is a huge part of our our ability to connect as a human population. Around the world, you will find different sources of coffee and different means at which people like to attribute themselves to the coffee, whether that be kicking it off their morning every day by having a cup, or coming together during social gatherings, for example. Many countries grow their own beans and take a lot of pride in the beans the flavor profile, the color, everything is highly considered for what they consider their perfect brew. You will see international names such as Colombian coffee, Ethiopian coffee, and the list goes on. So when you notice those kinds of countries that come before the name of the bean, that will attribute to where the bean was grown. And you can look up how each nationality idealizes their means of brewing for their particular bean. Now, the time of the day that one person decides to indulge in coffee is particular to culture. Commonly in America, we like to have it in the day during breakfast or on the way to work to help us kickstart our day and to jump into whatever we have planned. It kind of helps with repetition in our days as well, so it's common for people to have coffee every day as part of their morning routine. And in other cultures, you'll see that coffee can be used at the end of meals. For example, in Italy and Spain, it's common after a meal to have an espresso to kind of boost your metabolism up again after such a long and heavy meal. You'll feel slumped and tired from your digestion system kicking into action. So a lot of the times people will take a shot of a quick espresso to you don't want to elongate the process because it's at the end of the meal. So a quick espresso shot will get you back fired up for the rest of your day. Whereas in the morning, and in the same cultures as well as in others, a larger cup of coffee is used to kind of elongate that process and help you start building up your building blocks for the day. And you can get coffee at drive-thrus by walking into a coffee shop. Of course, across the world, you'll see cafes open from dawn to dusk, depending where, no matter actually where you're from, there are coffee shops and tea shops open around the clock to show the level of appreciation and need that a lot of people depend on caffeine for their day. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about caffeine because that is coffee's main compound that people drink it for, which can also be found in other resources that we will talk about later. Caffeine is a stimulant that when we ingest it, our body increases metabolism and also increases our nervous system production, our nervous system stimulants. So when we drink it, our heart rate increases and we become more alert, more concentrated. What caffeine does in the body is that it releases high levels of epinephrine throughout our bloodstream, which is also considered adrenaline. So when you think of an adrenaline rush, you're thinking of your heart beating fast, you're thinking of your mind going 1,000,000 miles a minute, and that's kind of what caffeine does, but on a lesser scale. If you were to abuse the level of caffeine intake, then our body is obligated to have, which I have the numbers up for you here. So it is suggested that people should not exceed more than 400 milligrams of caffeine every day. In a typical cup of coffee like this with medium roast coffee beans, that will be equivalent to 145 milligrams of coffee for 8 fluid ounces. That's about 1 cup. So you can understand that having multiple cups of coffee a day could lead to some negative side effects, including headaches or high blood pressure because of the high caffeine intake. So, like I briefly mentioned earlier, caffeine is not only sourced from coffee, rather, people from across the planet have different cultural and personal preferences as to how they like to ingest caffeine. So, in comparing a typical 8 fluid ounce medium roast coffee, such as this, that has 145 milligrams of caffeine, other people will turn to things like tea, and tea can have different levels of caffeine, but for example, a green tea will have about 45 milligrams of caffeine. So to put it in perspective, tea has a lot less, and that can go along with soft drinks such as soda, other carbonated beverages like Sprite, Pepsi, Coca-Cola. Those will have about 35 milligrams of caffeine in them. Now, it's important to mention that a large market has been opened up to energy drinks and power drinks, especially in America, but as well as across the planet. These drinks have a lot higher concentration than teas and soft beverages, roughly 80 to 100 milligrams of caffeine in them. So these are a lot higher concentration, and you'll feel the effects more strongly. Like everything with coffee, tea, and these power drinks, you have to also be precautious as to the other additives, sugars, and supplements that are put into the beverages to make them taste delicious. So that is something that you have to be wary of, and the nutrition contents should always be posted on the back of the packaging. So make sure that those abide by your typical life standards before you dive into something new. Now, as the wrap up, I wanted to highlight that people are very opinionated and have their preferences about the ways that they ingest caffeine. Things like energy drinks have been beat up in the media before, but it's important to know that caffeine is caffeine, and it is a great resource to have and to help us throughout our day, but you have to be mindful about your intake of it, and it could be something that you would like to bring up with your doctor before considering it a part of your daily routine. Thank you to everyone out there who tuned into Morning Joe. Hopefully you're able to start your day off with a little more energy, full of knowledge, because knowledge is power. Cheers, everyone, and good morning.